Okay, cool.
G'day, people of the NPL. It is the Verd here. We are back for week one of the Power Rankings, and I'm not alone. I'm joined once again by CallMe911 or Bob.
What's up, guys? What's up?
And this time, unfortunately, due to issues, I couldn't get him on last time. That was my bad. But we have him this time. It is Parker.
Yay, I'm actually here. Hi.
I know, rip you last time. That was my bad. That was my bad. I own it. It was my bad. Anyway, guys, so
It's all good.
basically, this week we are covering, as I said, like week one power rankings. So we've seen every team battle once now, and obviously the rankings are going to change a bit. We're not going to go into as much depth as we did for the post draft because we're not looking at their drafts. We're more looking at how they went in their battles for the first week. And so, kicking things off, I think we should just try and get this ball rolling as soon as possible. So, who would like to talk about the New York Metangs this week?
I would like to talk about the New York Metangs. I think most of us had them decently high before, and now they're like very consistently on the bottom. And by decently high, I mean like towards the middle range, not like up high. But you know they've dropped a lot compared to like the rest of the teams, and I think that's mainly because of the coach's mindset. I won't go too deep into it, but you know, he seems very tilted right now and just not in the best ability to win more games. I feel like I love Razor and I want him to win, but just his mindset right now is making me think he is not going to be winning as much.
No, definitely agree. I don't know. He's just struggling. I think he has a good enough team that he can do well. I think he was just outplayed in that first game. I don't think any of us expected that first match, like the first week match, to go the way it did. But another team we
Well,
have.
I actually did have San Antonio over New York in the power rankings itself. I had San Antonio 9th and New York 10th. So
that's true. Fair enough. Bob, would you like to talk about the Detroit Leopards?
Yeah, basically, I have the Detroit Leopards at last. Mainly because I watched the video of the coach of the Detroit Leopards, and I was pretty confused as to why he made certain plays. And it seemed like he was even confused himself as well. So that's basically the reason why I had him as last, because he was not convinced in his own playstyle and his own prediction ability. And that made me think that he isn't as compatible as an opponent as the other guys in the league are, the other teams in the league are. So he might grow into that role as a compatible trainer, as a comfortable with his team. But for now, I really was discouraged to put him any higher than at the absolute last spot.
Yeah, that's fair enough. He had a pretty rough first week. I didn't feel like he battled necessarily too bad in his first week, but definitely we're going to need a bit more convincing from him before we can put him a bit higher in the rankings. But one that I definitely have a bit different from you guys still is I have the Brisbane Breloom down in the bottom four now. Obviously, Pom did battle very, very nicely against Maddie, but honestly, he wasn't able to get the result, and for me, I can't really move him any higher or lower than near where I had him last time because he wasn't able to win. He did battle very well, but that being said, a lot of guys that lost this week did battle quite well, and so I'm still waiting to see a bit more from him in the weeks to come to make me be able to put him a bit higher. But one thing we all have, again, very similar in ranking here, is the Phoenix Sunkern. So Parker, would you like to talk about their performance this week?
yeah, the Phoenix Sunkern actually did not move from my previous rankings, and I think that's mainly because I had the Florida FERALIGATRS move down a little bit extra because they lost to what was my bottom team, the Boston B-Deuce. Overall, I feel like Phoenix Sunkern lost to a good team and a good player in Togue, and they don't really deserve to fall too much, especially since they're already towards the bottom and there's not much room to fall per se. Yeah, that's basically all I have, I think.
Yeah, I think it was just there are a lot of teams in here that are in the same kind of area because they didn't necessarily battle bad. They were just beaten by a much better team on the day. I think is how we kind of see it. Um, Same can I guess be said for the Phoenix Sunflora if you want to talk about them at all, Bob.
Yeah, the Phoenix and Flora actually, this is, I guess, a spoiler alert, but they faced the Sydney Torpedoes, and they are currently my number one. Um, like I said, spoiler alert, but yeah, so I figured that the Sydney Torpedoes would win, and the battle like itself was actually, in my opinion, the best battle of the week. The battle was really close. The sets and the plays were insane. So I really liked their battle, but obviously the Phoenix and Floras lost, and unfortunately for them, I cannot put them any higher than for me at least 13th, as they did in fact lose, and they did in fact lose to a good team. So I guess I have definitely hopes for them to reach a better place next week, but they have to prove themselves against, if I'm not mistaken, the Atlanta Braviaries, another good team in my first week ranking. But yeah, for now I put them below this Phoenix Sunkern because I think the Phoenix Sunkern did slightly better in the matchup against their week one opponent. As again, the Doug Parker is also a difficult opponent to play in the first week. But yeah, I'm not really sure how you feel about the Phoenix and Flora. I guess, in my opinion, they didn't quite do well enough. They didn't quite put their effort in enough to make sure they got the win against Sydney Torpedoes. They had an opportunity to win, but Riz didn't play as he should. He didn't make the plays where he could have made the difference in the battle.
I think also though,
One thing
on the flip
one
side,
thing I would
but
like
yeah,
to
you
say.
go for it.
Okay, one thing I would like to say is I really did like the one play he did make with the Bisharp, switching it in on a defog. That was really nice.
Definitely, yeah, that was a good play.
I think the big thing for me is not just that like maybe if Riz played better, he could have won. You have to also look at it from the side that when it came to the Sunfloras against the Sharpedos, Gypsy did battle really well in there. He made the right plays at the right times. But we'll obviously get to that a bit later on with how he played. I might just talk a little bit about the FERALIGATRS. They had, I think, one of the most narrow losses this week. I think, you know, it just showed that like, I couldn't really change them too much from my initial positioning. They didn't really battle that badly, but I also feel like, you know, the prep could have been a bit better. Like, if you look at their team, they didn't really have anything for Chandelure, and we're always talking about when it comes to prep having, you know, a way to deal with every threat that your opponent's going to bring, even if they don't bring it. And I feel like he didn't prep super well for the Bidoo's team, and that kind of led to his downfall a little bit in that battle. So that's why I had him pretty low.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a few good preparations, but basically I watched the commentary about the battle, and he was kind of clueless about a few months on the opponent's team, which kind of put him in a low spot for me. Mainly about the Gothel being something different than a Joystman, like a Joyspec, Joyscurfman. And even the Manibus not having U-turn, he was kind of confused by that. So it kind of put me off in placing him any higher than I have him right now, because if you know the counter team format, like the league format, then you should know the potential, or at least the best movesets for your opponent turn, especially if you have a mon like Hoopa and Bound on your current squad, which is kind of centralizing for the opponent to build around. So I guess there's a lot to learn for the Florida FERALIGATRS, but yeah, I think that was kind of his weakness in this week at least.
For sure. Well, we are cruising through this right now. Definitely going through the bottom four teams already. Moving up to the next four. One that I think we should definitely talk about is a team that did move up a fair bit in our rankings this week, and that is the Boston Bidoo. Parker, do you want to talk about why they got lifted up so much this week?
Yeah, I mean, they played a really great game. I mean, they played Chandelure really well. I think they had Wakanberry Mandibuzz. Yes, that was right. Just they played really well. It was a really great game, and you know, they were like towards the bottom, and now after they've won, they moved up. It's as simple as that, you know.
Yeah, I think they were definitely one of the two real teams this week that we had initially perhaps underrated their ability. I mean, I for one have never seen him battle, so I was more looking at his draft, but definitely seeing his battling style and the way he goes through his plays. He played a pretty darn good game. His game plan was to good effect, and at the end of the day, he got the result.
Yeah, I agree.
Another team that's in that same kind of vein of a team that we kind of like. Well, I know Bob and I kind of expected them to be a bit lower, but they kind of proved us wrong. Was the San Antonio Swamperts? Bob, what do you think really led to them kind of moving up the rankings here?
I mean, they played the New York Metangs, which we all have quite low in our rankings. So I guess that is a reason why he has not moved up very high for me. But his sets, his move sets, especially the Suicune, was perfect for the opponent's team. And I don't know. The reason why I moved him up is because he won very convincingly, and mainly because he didn't make any misplays. He played like he should play. He played safe, but he played like for the win. Didn't make any misplays. The opponent, the New York Metangs, didn't prepare enough for the Suicune, and he managed to get the win very convincingly. And I guess that means that he did something right, despite it not being a very close game, despite it not being a very intense game. He did manage to impress me with his building and with his sets, and with his victory in this week.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely had to eat some humble pie after putting him last in the week 0 power rankings there, but we all make mistakes. And
Hey, you said you wanted to be proved wrong.
yeah,
and
exactly.
here it
So
is.
I'm glad he did.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm glad he did, to be fair. Now moving on to the flip side of this, looking at a team that we all kind of had a bit higher and were expecting a bit more from, except maybe Bob, who had them a bit lower than we did, but it was the Los Angeles Nidokings and Danza. I think he had a pretty tough first round match, so Rob has a very solid team and just executed his game plan perfectly. That superpower play with Braviary pretty much dented Danza's best switch in to that Mon, which was obviously really detrimental from the start, and I think it was just a back foot battle from there, and unfortunately he wasn't able to get the job done, but I feel like he will be able to bounce back, but he definitely does drop a bit in the rankings here. I think just generally speaking, Rob just out-prepped and outplayed him in that battle.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the plays that Danza made were kind of obvious. He didn't make any plays even though he was on the back foot, and the main thing that kind of bothered me is he had a win condition in Reuniclus, and he had an Intimidate Crocodile, and if only he sacked his Crocodile for the reason, just because of the Intimidate, he would have such an easier time for the Reuniclus to set up against the Austin TAUROS team, and I think that was his only way to win, and then somehow he didn't make that play, and that kind of bothered me. It was a very obvious play, and he didn't make it, and he kind of lost because of that. I think that was his only chance to win, and he didn't, in my opinion, make the very simple and easy play to put the odds in his favor. And I think that kind of bothers me. Despite that, I think he didn't play awful at all. I think he definitely has chances to climb back up on the table. But he has to prove himself in the week 2 and a week 3 and onwards before I can rank him up higher than I have him right now.
One thing I would like to say is that he really was unable to deal with the Arcanine properly, and like on paper, that just, like, if you look at the teams, you would think he'd be able to deal with it with things like Volcanion and Crocodile, and he just wasn't really able to.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on, last team I just want to discuss well, for one of us, it is in the bottom half, which is for you, Parker, the Jersey DWEBBLES. Now, Bob and I obviously have these guys a bit higher, but why do you feel like their win this week hasn't propelled them a bit higher in the rankings for you?
Well, I think it's mainly just because of how low they were to start with. I didn't really feel justified moving them up an insane amount just yet, just from one win. It was a good win, and they played well, and so, they did go up. But, if they get more wins in the future, then they will continue to move up.
Yeah, for sure. That's totally understandable. I mean, I had him a bit higher because I know that Cloud is quite a good battler. He executed his strategies to really good effect. That Kofagrigus set was pretty out there, but it ended up working exactly the way that he wanted it to, so props to him for that. I think he battled quite nicely. It is a bit of an awkward team, but I think he's been using it well so far. What do you think, Bob?
The reason why I mean, I raised him like one spot, but the reason why he's not any higher than he is right now is because his opponent were the Detroit Leopards, and like I said previously, they are my lowest ranked team, and mainly because I wasn't convinced that the Detroit Leopards had a game plan to win the game versus the Jersey Devils. So I guess the Jersey Devils played to win, and they did it pretty well. However, I cannot raise him higher as they are right now, as their opponent was just not convincing enough and not strong enough to put him in a spot where he had to prove himself to be the better team.
Definitely. Let's now talk about a team that we've actually all moved quite lower than what we initially anticipated, and the team that is currently, as it stands after the first week, rock bottom of the whole league, which is the Atlanta Braviaries, the reigning champions, who came from heroes to zeros against the Toronto Raptors at 5-0 loss. Parker, what do you think this is just a one-off? Do you think Trev can definitely bounce back from this?
Yeah, I mean, Joel is a fantastic player, and if it weren't for hacks, he also should have beat Trev in the championship as well. So in the previous season, that is. And I think that they're two of the top caliber players, and like losing this bad to Joel really doesn't mean much to me, just because of how easy I feel it is to lose to someone that good. And I had the Braviaries ranked really high to start with because I really liked their team, and I feel like even if Trev wasn't that good of a player, his team alone can really carry him through some battles and help him get wins in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is definitely more of a one-off than anything. Trev is, as we all know, a very, very good battler, and he can definitely bounce back from this, but it just showed that although Jolt's team everybody thought was a little bit awkward to start the season, it's definitely got that surprise factor and was able to get the job done. But let's talk more about some other teams. One team again that we talked about already that performed really well this week was the Arizona Carvanas and Togue. Bob, what do you think was the main factor as to why we've raised him up a bit this week?
I think his battling definitely was the main thing. He prepared his team pretty well, but his battling, he knew what his opponent was gonna do. He knew exactly what his opponent was gonna bring. And he played to win, and he played to. It was definitely in a bad spot at some point in the game, but he managed to twist it in his favor. And I think that skill, the battling skill, and also the preparation skill that Doug/Chris already has as an experienced battler, will put him in a good advantage in this competition. So I think the Arizona Californians definitely deserve to be in the top half of the rankings for now.
For sure. Now, as I earlier stated, I had the Brisbane Braylooms down a lot lower because I had initially ranked them low, and they had gone on to lose this week, so they hadn't really done anything to show me that they had, proved me wrong or whatnot. Obviously, you guys have them a bit higher. Parker, would you like to talk about, how you feel the Braylooms went week one?
Well, I had them ranked really high to begin with, and they lost a very, very close game to Maddie, which both of you had and have ranked really high. So I admit making a mistake, ranking him 8th to start with, and just like losing that close to a player and team like that really says something, and I feel like he shouldn't be dropping towards the bottom just yet, especially when I had him towards the top.
Anything you want to add to that, Bob, at all, about the Braylooms?
I definitely agree. despite being having a loss in the first week, it doesn't make him like a bad player at all. I think his team and his playstyle, like he showed off in his first week, he definitely has the opportunity and the skill to be in the top half of the league. And yeah, like I said, despite having a week one loss against a very good player, it doesn't rule him out of the top 8 for me. I think he's definitely a competitor for the title this season, and one loss doesn't rule him out. And I think he will bounce back in the second week for sure.
Alrighty, I think pretty much covered all these teams. Now we can actually get on already to the top 4 teams, and a lot of very common factors in here being that almost all of us have the Sydney Sharpedos, St. Louis Reshiram's, Austin Taurus, and Toronto Raptors up here. Probably the 4 big winners from this week. Do you guys want to take the time maybe, because I put them just outside of the top 4. Do you want to talk about why you both feel that the Sydney Sharpedos have been the top team this season? Oh, sorry, not this season, sorry, after the first week.
Well, I think they just played really well, and for me, they were the top team that I had that did not lose. They were 3rd, and then Brisbane and Atlanta, who were ahead of them, both lost. So it's just a logical step to move them up to 1st. They played the Phoenix Sunfloras, and they played them really well. I mean, we saw Stunfisk basically 1v1 a Tornadoes T, which was cool. I really liked what he did with Mew as well. Like, I really hate when Mew is confined to like a defensive or like a defog position, and having like a more offensive one with Aura Sphere for Bisharp was really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the main reason why I have these Sydney Sharpedos at first is because I think their preparation was pretty much perfect. And also their play style, the choices he made, like the doubles, definitely shows that he is one of the best battlers in the league at this point. I think he has the game under control. I think he makes the 50-50s or the predictions when he has to. And I don't really see him losing to anyone in the next few weeks, as long as he plays like this. And that's the reason why I have the Sydney Sharpedos at first. I think his first week shows that he is a very compatible battler. And if you haven't watched that game yet, I definitely incline you to watch the game as soon as possible.
Yeah, I feel like he is definitely one of those guys that does the best commentary for his battles. Like, he definitely talks through his plays and what he feels like his opponent's going to do really well. So he's definitely a good one to watch, guys. Definitely recommend. Moving on, let's talk about the man who always seems to end up losing to Trev via hacks, but then just destroyed him 5-0. The Toronto Raptors this week obviously had a big result. I think it just goes to show that people thought that it wasn't his best draft, but Jolt's just proven that even with a team that may have not been his best draft, he can still use it incredibly well. It shows how good he is as a battler. I feel like, he used Sylveon really well in this battle. It just punched a hole through a lot of Trev's team, and in the end, he just made all the right plays at all the right times. But what do you guys feel about how he went?
I feel like beating someone as good as Trev, and especially with like the past hacks in the championship, I feel like actually winning this and winning it handily is going to give him huge momentum going into the future weeks. I definitely do not see him losing. I mean, he might, but I don't foresee it. Like you said, he's playing really well with his team. We're kind of a little bit unsure of it at first, but it's obvious that Jolt knows what he's doing with it, and I think if things continue as they have the first week, we'll definitely see him stay up towards the top.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed with how the Toronto Raptors played, especially since Atlanta Braves were like the team that they have is insane. I do disagree with some of like Trev's picks, which he did bring to the game. However, I think the team preparation of Jolt was definitely on point, and his playstyle, even with a team that he didn't really expect the opponent to bring, I think he played well enough to the point where he could have a very easy win against him. And it didn't seem like the Atlanta Braves had much chance against the squad that Joel brought, so it was a convincing win against a very good opponent. So definitely deserves to be on the top 4 list for all of us, I believe.
Definitely. Another team that definitely deserves to be on the top 4 list for all of us are the Austin Tauros, who came through with a really nice victory over the Los Angeles Newt Kings. Now, what I'm curious about is, Bob, you had them initially at number 1. They've dropped to number 3 for you, even after a really solid win. So, were there any real factors from that battle that made you want to put them down lower, or do you feel just the Sharp Hitters and Reshiram played a lot better this week?
For one, I do definitely think the Sydney Sharpedos played and prepared a lot better than the Austin Tauros did. But the main reason why I dropped Robin down is because he didn't prepare very well for the Arena class on the opposing squad, which was by far the most centralized pick, in my opinion, to prepare for. And that kind of cost him. He did manage to beat it somehow, but that was mainly because spamming recovery moves and spamming flat blitz with Arcanine and hoping to get crits to put him in an advantage. So I definitely think he did play well, but he had a lot of trouble beating the Reuniclus. And I think if Danza played better with the Reuniclus, especially with Intimidate from Crocodile, putting him in in an advantage, I think that the Austin Tauros would have been in a much worse situation and potentially might have lost the game. So I do think that the Austin Tauros still did play well and did play to win. However, they need to improve their planning, they need to improve their play style and their predictions if they want to continue being a top team, because they didn't really impress me this time around. However, I still think they are worth of the top 4 for now.
Yeah, definitely. Just super quick on that battle, because I'm keen to hear your guys' opinion. Do you feel that Regenerator Reuniclus was better than Magic Guard Reuniclus in that matchup?
In hindsight, definitely not. The Reuniclus, especially since it was a Coma Reuniclus, benefits more from the Magic Guard than from the Regenerator, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And you heard Danza say it in his video as well, how much he regretted bringing the Regenerator, and like you said, hindsight, it's definitely the better choice in hindsight.
Yeah, for sure. No, I feel like, it's just one of those decisions where it's 50-50, and just at the time, especially with the burn from Arcanine, it was just really unfortunate for him. But we are now here with the last team to talk about this week. They remained number 1 for me. They remained number 2 for Bob. They moved up a little bit higher for Parker, and that was the St. Louis Reshirams. They probably played the game of the week, in my opinion, against the Brisbane Breloom. And, as you kind of listened to Maddie talking about his battle and, the certain players that he made, it was quite clear, he came in with a certain game plan and he basically pulled it off exactly the way that he wanted to. The Magnezone set worked exactly the way that it was meant to, taking out the Bronzong, and the moment that Bronzong went down, Mega Gardevoir became such a bigger threat to Pom's team, and I think, he's shown why, we've backed him so high at the start of this season, and I think he's going to be probably one of the toughest teams to beat for this season. But what do you guys think of this Louis Reshiram's performance?
I think you've basically covered it. I mean, the game plan was phenomenal. I absolutely loved that Magnezone set, and you said that Mega Gardevoir became a bigger threat after it. I would go even farther than that and say it just became a dominant force and just tore through his team once the Bronzong was gone. And you just see he has that game plan and he executes it, and that's a really good quality to have when it comes to league format.
Yeah, I don't really think I have anything to add to that. He made a game plan, he played it perfectly, and he managed to win the game. Pretty close, but he managed to win the game, and yeah, that's all that matters in the end.
Definitely.
True.
Well, honestly, guys, that's pretty much it for the rankings. That is how we feel the teams stand after the first week. Obviously, again, just to reiterate for haters who might be in the comments, these are just our opinions from what we've seen from the battles and the team builders from these coaches, comparing them also to how we've ranked them initially. So Don't like get too heated about it. It is just an opinion-based thing. And as I've said in the past, and as I was proven this week, I'm more than happy. I'm sure you guys are the same, to be proven wrong by these teams. Like, we want to see these teams that we
Definitely, yeah.
initially feel are not going to do that great to like go out there and do their best. Like, that's what you want to see in this kind of format, is every team being a threat. And I feel like we are in a league where even those bottom place teams can still be very, very threatening. Just because they had one bad week doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have a bad season. So I definitely feel that in the coming weeks our rankings will consistently change, because we're going to see a lot of upsets, a lot of really good wins from people, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Surprising wins are the victors that I really like.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us, guys. Obviously, this is definitely like a lot shorter than the first power ranking video, so that's very positive for us. But
This
thank
is with
you.
3 people and not 2.
I know, it's been sick. But thank you, Bob and Parker, for joining me today, guys. Anything you guys like to say before we finish this off?
No, I think I'm good. It's been a lot of fun recording this, actually being able to be here this week. Yeah. Bob?
Yeah, I don't really think of anything else to add, but thank you for letting me speak my mind.
No worries. Alright, that is going to do it for us, guys. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you can check out all stuff NPL. Make sure you also go check out all the coach channels to watch the team builders and battles. And while you're at it, why don't you be lads and go subscribe to all of our channels as well, because sometimes we upload good content. I don't know. It's every now and then, right, guys? Like.
Yeah, my channel's been dead for a while, but I plan
Yeah,
to bring it
same.
back.
I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, that is gonna do it for us, guys. But keep on following the NPL, and we out of here.